Thank you all for joining us today. Really appreciate it. I hope that some of you have already had the opportunity to install the update and play around with it a little bit. The goal of today is to show you a lot of the new features and enhancements. Some of you have seen a few of these things before. For some of you, a lot of this will be brand new. So as I go through, some of them it'll be slightly more demo than training when it's some of the more complex features, which I will mention as I go through. We're going to be following up with a lot of new training materials and things like that too. So to make sure that we address some of those really advanced things much more specifically in a full training mode. But today you'll at least get to see some of the possibilities. So we're going to go through a lot of things today. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to very, very quickly roll through some topics that we're going to cover today. I won't spend really a whole lot of time on slides, but here's some of the things that we're going to go over. We did a lot of enhancements to the user interface, just your basic interactions and making some things more accessible. We'll go through some variable improvements. Again, a lot of the changes that you'll see across the board are changing the way that you're accessing some of the tools, allowing you, just making it a little bit more clear and easy for you. But also we've brought some basic Word settings and things right into the SmartDocs environment, so that the things that we know that people are commonly asking, hey, why is this happening? And it tends to be a Word setting that needs to be adjusted. So we've pulled some of those things in as well. We'll go through a lot of conditional text enhancements. Some of these are really, really nice, and some things that we know that a lot of our customers have wanted. So we're kind of excited about that. A lot of snippet things. You'll be able to do some really interesting advanced things with your snippets now, and also just being able to have a little more versatility in the way that you're inserting snippets into documents. Some more statistics, so you have a little more information along the way, and then being able to generate some different reports. And then we'll go into some of the really advanced stuff. I'll show you a new feature in the document snapshots. And then we'll go through some Smart Builder stuff, and I will have to admit I'm not the Smart Builder expert in the building, I will say that. However, I will be able to show you some of these really cool new things that you can do with Smart Builders. So some of you, as I said, some of you have a lot of experience with Smart Builders, so you're going to be able to very easily incorporate these into your current designs. Some of you may have never used a Smart Builder before, haven't gotten that far yet. I still encourage you to check these things out, because it will help you as you're planning, moving toward working with Smart Builders, which is, of course, our document automation creation capability. It'll help you to plan ahead and say, oh, yeah, I want to be able to do that. So it'll help when you're creating your templates and figuring out what your requirements are for your Smart Builder. So even if you haven't even thought about building a Smart Builder yet, it's good to see what some of the new things are that you can do. Okay, so let's get right into it here. I've got tons of things we're going to use, a variety of documents today. So let's just start with a kind of a quick tour. You'll notice some of the icons have changed. We've kind of consolidated some of the menu items. So for example, we have different display settings, which a lot of these were available in your SmartDocs interface before, but we've pulled some of these together, including, as I mentioned, some of these Word settings that sometimes get toggled around when you're doing other things, just giving you easy access to them so you can change them or do whatever you need to do with those. We've also added these clear character and clear paragraph direct formatting under tools. So this is when you want to get rid of direct formatting that should be styles. So it will only apply to selected content. It won't wipe out your entire document. So it really will help with cleanup and when you're preparing your content for reuse. So this isn't new, it's just moved to be a little bit more convenient. And a lot of folks who are just getting started with SmartDocs and trying to figure out how do we have best practices and apply styles to things, you need to clear some stuff out. So this will just help with that. We'll deal with publish later, but we have added some different ways to allow you to publish and remove track changes and comments that are allowed in snippets now. So you can, I'll mention this a little later, but you can save a snippet with track changes or comments within them, and in Publish they can be removed. So some of you are probably familiar with what I'm talking about. You may have even requested that capability for review purposes and whatnot. So we've added that functionality at the Publish step. Okay, so a lot of the other enhancements are right in the task pane here. Again, you're only going to now see things that you need. In other words, we've kind of just cleaned it up a little bit. So for example, if I go over to the Variables tab here in my task pane, traditionally we had a status icon for everything listed in here. Now we only show a status that needs attention. So for example, in this case, we have a variable that's a locked variable that's in the repository, obviously, that the value has changed since we last used this document. Now, normally you would change this in a template. I have a document open off of a template. This isn't typically where you would make a change unless you were working with a live document for a while and needed to. But so it's just as simple as now just synchronizing and pulling it in as it always was. But you'll only see status icons when it's necessary for you to do something. So that's cleaned up. You also have some other capabilities within the task pane to change your what space is being taken up when you have properties and whatnot. So I'll take you through those as we go through some of these different menus and different uses. Okay, I'm not going to show you obviously basic functionality of variables because everyone has access to that information and probably all know it right now anyway. So let's just first take a look at a drop-down, of our new variable window here. So we've added a couple of things to this, and again, some of you may have seen this in the past if you've worked with some of our betas upcoming. But we now have the opportunity to, you can create your document, create your variable on the document level, create it on the repository level. If you create it on the repository level, you, of course, first select your repository. Here are our demo repositories today. You can select your format now from a list, so you can choose what type of variable you want. You can also decide if you want to lock the variable, of course, which was an option before. Now you can import it into the document after creating it or not. So maybe you're just getting started and you want to create a whole bunch of variables, but you're not really working on any one document, so you don't need them in a document, and you can continue just creating and import them into a document later if you want to. I'm going to create a new just little sample variable here just to show you one thing. I'm just creating it on the document level. So when I create a new variable now, I'm prompted to allow me to create more variables, so I can just keep doing it. I don't have to keep selecting new variable and do that. So again, when you're just getting started, this is a really efficient way to work. So I can, of course, just say that I'm all done creating them. So the benefit is you can create many variables at once, especially when you're getting started. Okay, I'm going to open up the Manage Variables window. So all those Manage windows are always these little menu items here. So I'm opening up this Manage Variables window. Here you'll get a full report of all of the variables in your document. Here's the new little variable we just created, and then some are coming out of repositories. And here, of course, you will see repository status of all of them. So this is where all your statistics are. Here is where you can find out if anything is out of sync, or you can also refresh, synchronize, do all sorts of stuff. You have menu here to open up your quick edit, which we'll do in a moment. If you wanted to upload any to the repository that were in the document only, you can certainly do that from here as well. You can also generate a report. So if you just wanted to open up, maybe someone said, hey, can you generate a list of all the variables? We want to change naming convention, and it'll just be easier to do it in this way. You can just open up this report, and it will show you a list of all of the variables in your entire document. Oh, sorry, I've got that running down here. Oh, I know I did. Let me just get this saved. There we go. Okay, So this will just be a raw generation of all of the variables in the document, what values they currently have. So it's literally a report of that actual window that you're seeing. Okay, so the other things here, which you might notice, is this import button. This import button now, we've organized the import. So if in actually a couple iterations of SmartDocs ago, there was an import from document and you could make choices and it kind of walked you through this wizard. We've simplified that in this way so that now if you wanted to import variables from a document, so in other words, you create a whole bunch of variables in a document, maybe you don't want them in the repository for whatever reason, or you are working with desktop edition where you're not using repository in the first place, so this allows you to pull them in from another document. So you can do that. You can also, of course, import variables from your repositories, and you can choose which variables you want to import. And now we have this really handy import values from a spreadsheet. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to select that option, and we're going to pull this right from this little spreadsheet that I've already set up, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. So I'm going to open that, and what it's doing is pulling in variable values from this predefined spreadsheet that has just my variables and some values. It's super simple looking. This example is incredibly simple, so you may have something far more elaborate and many more variables. So we're going to say, go ahead and import. It's going to import 11 variable values. So you can see now this populated all of these variables with the values that were in that particular spreadsheet. This is purposefully left open. I'm going to show you something about that in a moment. I'm going to open up, this is the spreadsheet that I used, and this couldn't be more simple. It's just the actual name of the variable, so written exactly as that variable name is written, and what values should go in. So it's just, this is just a simple example, but it's very easy, as you can see, to pull this in. So if you can imagine a use case where you might want to give this to someone else who's not a SmartDocs user, or you just want to do it yourself and just kind of go through and put in values that you know you want to later use in this import way. So it's just simple to do. For those of you who are working with smart builders, yes, smart builders will handle this in a slightly different way, in a more automated way, but it's the same functionality. So if you're not working with smart builder, this is how you can pull values in from a spreadsheet. Okay, the other thing about this is that you can open your quick edit from here if you want to. You can also simply go into your variable actions and open quick edit. So I'm going to open quick edit. This is where you can come, if I hadn't filled in those values, maybe I want to open this up and use this as my checklist of making sure I get all my variable values entered in. So we've kind of simplified this a bit. What we've also added is a validate. So some people have many, many variables, hundreds of variables, and want to make sure that any variables in their document or that all the variables in the document have values associated with them. So I could click validate, and SmartDocs will tell me which variables contain a blank value. So I can see here that I do have one that has a blank value. So now I can say, oh, I want to make that V1 or whatever. So it will allow you to validate and catch any that are missing values. Okay. So that's, in a nutshell, most of the enhancements to variables. Again, it's kind of just giving you a little bit more easy access to certain things. We've also improved the find and replace. On the back end, the functionality will look the same to you. That's the ability to find plain text in your content, replace it with variables, especially when you're getting started and prepping your content for reuse. So it's just a little more efficient, it's a little more accurate, and it's a nice enhancement. You can also reset values. So if I were to select this, it would reset all the variable values to blank that are not locked values. So all those things that we just imported would just go back to being blank values. So it's easy enough to reset if you need to. All right, I'm going to switch to a different document now. And I have many things open here. Let me make sure I get the right thing. Okay. So I'm going to switch over to a different document, and we're going to focus on conditional text for a little bit. Just to kind of set this up, maybe some of you have seen this scenario used in demos and whatnot, but this is a a sample user guide, and in it we have a variety of conditional tags. Some of them represent a product model numbers, for example these 3. So this is an automatic 1000, manual 1000, manual 2000, and then we further have 2 unit of measure tags. So we're going to play around with these tags a little bit and talk about some of these new features. So let me just scroll down here. Okay. So as always, nothing has changed. So everything you could do before you can still do. You can still select text. You can apply 1 or more conditional tags to it. You can still nest conditions, etc. We have made some of the different options a little bit more available. So I have my cursor in. I'm going to put my cursor in this one because it has multiple tags selected. Remember, this pink color means that more than one conditional tag has been applied to the same piece of content. So if I go into my actions, I can open up this behavior to manage the behavior of conditional text. This is general. So if it's nested conditions, I can decide if I'm going to do a can show or always hide. So you can decide how that parent-child is going to be include or exclude trailing markers. None of this is new functionality. This is just, I've just moved it to more convenient places. If I wanted to deal with this specific instance of conditional text, I can go into the properties area in my task pane as usual, and I have a behavior tag for that. Now that one will be specific to this, or it's giving you the same options there. And then also I can choose if I want to, to go in here and change it to or logic or and logic, or change whatever is applied there. Okay, so it's just giving you some more options. Also, just a side note, in the task pane here, you can remove or just hide any properties information with a simple double click of that bar. So especially when you're doing snippet searches and you want more task pane screen real estate, you can collapse anything. If you happen to have snippets selected where you'll get that property information, you can collapse it if you don't want to see it. All right, so 2 really cool new features are a repeat and an apply multiple feature tag. So now you can always apply 1 tag at a time. You can apply a single tag from the ribbon, of course. You can apply a single tag from the task pane. But let's say you apply 1 and you want to apply more, and then you want to repeat that action. So I'm going to take you down to this kind of made up little bullet list just to really illustrate what it is that we're doing here. So here's a bullet list when the words are telling you what exactly should be happening with the conditional tag. So this first line item should always be visible. Therefore, we're not going to apply any conditional tags to it. Okay. This item should be visible for AU models. So I'm going to select the content, and I can select from here the conditional tag I want. I can click apply, and there we go. I could have also done that from here. Now here's the other one, the other AU product that I want. So I can come here and I can select that. And if I want to, I can come up here and again, I could apply the same tag, or I could just repeat apply. So I'm just going to repeat apply. So maybe I don't want to keep maybe I have a long list of tags and I don't want to have to keep searching for it. I'm just going to repeat apply. So I've just applied the same tag using the repeat function in that way. I can also say, okay, this item should only be visible for MA models, but I have 2 MA models. So I could select both of these from here, or I can go into my apply tag in the ribbon and choose apply multiple tags. This allows me to, without having to select them individually from the task pane or a drop-down list, I can go into here and say I want to apply both of these tags. It's at this time that I can also choose, do I want to use or and logic. So I will keep that as or logic, and I'll apply both tags. And as always, it's a default pink color, which tells us visually that more than one conditional tag is applied. Now, we just applied 2 tags, so I can now, if I want to, also select this piece of content that requires the same 2 tags, and I can just say repeat. So one of the things about that repeat step is that we've had a lot of customers who want to be able to do exactly what I just did repeatedly over and over and over again throughout their content. So they're very focused on a specific set of products or set of tags for whatever reason they need, and be able to apply that same combination over and over and over again very easily. So it makes it very easy to do that repeat item or that repeat step. Okay, let's just take a quick look at creating a new tag. You're going to see it's very similar to the variable. And in fact, when I create a new one, I will be prompted to create more if I want to. But it's exactly the same type of options as far as creating it at the document level, creating it at the repository level, and also importing it into the document at that time. You can lock the color if you want to, etc. So we're just going to, I'm going to create a new MA3000. And in a moment, we're going to talk about incorporating this. We've decided our fictitious company is going to now have an MA3000 and eliminate the MA1 and 2000s, okay? So I'm going to create this new tag, and I'll make it red. Create it. I'm all done creating tags now, so I'll say that. So I have this other tag right here. And now let's talk about what we would need to do if we wanted to kind of eliminate these other two and replace it with this one. One thing I also want to show you is that you can, as you're selecting content, let's say, and this is a change. If I wanted to apply both of these manually, or however I wanted to apply both of them, if I applied this one and then I decide, oh wait, I actually want to apply multiple tags to that, even if I just have my cursor in it, I don't have to have everything selected. I can actually make that change here. So I can go into applied tags here without having to highlight everything. So I've already highlighted everything and I say, oh wait, I want to apply another thing. I can just put my cursor in there now and select the other one to add to that and apply it. And that is a difference. So again, if you've only done one and now you're applying a second one, it's much easier. You don't have to highlight the entire selection in order to do that. So hopefully that makes sense to those of you who need it, because I think that's a really great efficiency. Okay, so back to our scenario. Here's what we want to do. We want to replace any tagged items, any tag content, images, anything that have either the MA1000, the MA2000, or both, and we want to replace that with the MA3000 tag. So let's do a couple of things so I can give you a little bit more visual here. I'm going to open the content map. And the content map is really nice because it allows us to see, specific things too, not just, we don't have to see all of our SmartDocs stuff, we can just see what we're looking for. So I'm going to do expand to conditional text. This shows us literally every tag in our document, which if I clicked on any of them, it would navigate us right to it. Okay, so the MA1 and 2000s are going away product-wise, and they're becoming the MA3000. So now we need to change this somehow. All right. We're going to start with, I'm sorry, here we go. Okay, we're going to do find and update. So what this is going to allow us to do is do a replacement. But let's take a look at all of the choices here. And I will warn you that this is, just hearing it might be a little bit confusing because you have a lot of options. And so I want to define all of these terms for you. I'm not expecting that you'll memorize everything I'm saying right now, but you'll always have this to refer back to. And like I said, we'll be doing additional trainings too. Okay, so here we want to find which tags. Well, we already know that. We want to find these two tags. And eventually we're going to update with this MA3000. Okay, but let's make sure our options and settings are the way that we want them. Match all means that it's only going to find that as a match if it has both tags applied, but it also may include something else, like a third or fourth tag. So whatever it finds has to have both, and it can have other things. Match any will match either or both. So as long as one of those two tags is applied to the content, it will, and nothing else, it will use it. It will replace it. Match exactly means it will have to be both that is selected, nothing more, nothing less. So in this case, both tags would have to be applied to the content in order for the update to happen. It will not do it if only one is applied. So in our case, we want match any. We want to find if they're both applied or if one of the two is applied, but not other things. Okay. Now, in this section, apply tags. So now we have to decide what do we want SmartDocs to do once it finds those conditional tags. So in this case, apply tags will mean it's going to apply this tag in addition to what it's found. So it's finding these two, making sure that one or both of them is there, and it's going to replace them, but it will just, we want it to replace them. This will add the third one. That's not what we want. Replace tags is it will get rid of those that were selected and in the find and replace, and it will replace it with what we have in the find, and it will replace it with what's in the update. So that's in the end what we will want. The remove tags will mean that we are removing whatever is selected in the update portion. So the way we have it set up now wouldn't make any sense. If we wanted to do this type of find, we would likely down here, if we were removing tags, we would say, okay, find those and remove this one or whatever. Okay, so something down here has to match something up here if you're going to remove something. So in our case, hopefully I've explained this clearly enough, we are finding any content that is tagged with one or both of those and replacing those tags with the MA3000. So that's what this operation is going to do for us. So I'm going to say, yep, find. Does a very nice quick scan of everything. It's telling us how many matches were found. So we can say, yep, go ahead and update that text. So as it's rolling through this change, you'll see even in the content map, it automatically has now updated. Now we can see even in the content map, these are all MA3000. So as always, now you have the option, do you want to keep doing what you're doing and do some more things, or are you all done with that? We're all done with that. So I'm going to close it. Now you can see here that everything that had MA1000 or MA2000 has now been replaced with MA3000. So it's a really nice way to do a clean sweep when you're making updates like this. I could navigate to anywhere I want and see that that's been updated. And you could safely now delete these from your document. They are not in use. In this case, they're 100% not in use. I could delete them and clean up my document or get them out of the repository or whatever is necessary as a next step. Okay, so this is a pretty powerful thing, and it's something that that we know, those of you who obviously things change over time and you want to update, or maybe you just change the way things are named, or you want to, adjust how things display, that you can still do it. It doesn't have to be a major company change. It might just be a way that you're changing the way that you're organizing your conditional tags or whatever. So it's a nice way to do that. Okay. Another quick thing I want to show you is this refresh formatting option. So let's say, and this is the primary use case, if you've accidentally selected, maybe you're doing other things and you've selected some content and you accidentally selected some conditional text that you didn't mean to. Maybe, for example, I wanted to, for whatever reason, highlight this label here in yellow. So I actually go into my word tools and I highlight in yellow, and then I was like, oh wait, I don't want these to be in yellow, or I didn't want those selected or whatever, and I would prefer that they go back to looking the way that they're supposed to. I can just go into my refresh formatting and it will clean it all up, and then I'll see it the way that I should see it. So it's going through the entire document, not just a selection, and now it looks the way that it should. So you can see that that would be helpful. Sometimes depending on how you have words set up, sometimes if I were to add content within tags, maybe it doesn't highlight it all visually, even though it's absolutely within the tag and it would perform properly, but it just doesn't, you don't like the way that it looks, and you want to refresh it. So it's things like that. It's just making sure that you have on screen what you want to see if you inadvertently remove some of that highlighting or do anything like that. Okay. So overall, again, just an overall kind of cleanup of menus and what you can do. Those different actions are hopefully really helpful for a lot of you. Show and hide is the same. Everything functions the way that it did before. So there's nothing taken away. It's just all just things added, and hopefully you'll get a lot of use out of that. Okay, I'm going to jump down a little bit so you can even see throughout my entire document there's another instance of that MA3000. So it's just it's a really great way to do that. All right, we're going to move on to snippets now. I'm going to close the content map. All right, so nothing really wildly different about how you can search for things. All those things work. They're some of the back-end stuff has made them more efficient, which I don't even really know how I would explain it other than to say it just works better and faster. So let's go ahead and just do a simple search and start from there. I'm going to type in a keyword here. Okay, so now we are seeing a list of snippets, and let's take a look. Some of you may have seen this type of results pane before, but here we have some new information in our search results. So some things that we can do, first of all, it by default will sort by alphabetical order. You can also sort by most inserted. So that's this number over here. So if I change that, it'll put them in the order of most inserted within each repository. And that is not usage tracking. Rather, that is a running total of how many times that specific snippet has been inserted by anybody who has access and is using this repository. So it's not just your usage, it's everybody on the team. Now, where this becomes really helpful, we've had a lot of our proposal teams requested this over time, so they can see which snippets people are using, so that when they're making selections, they're kind of making them based on that type of activity, the frequency. It's also really helpful from an audit perspective. If you end up seeing that you're doing snippet searches and you're seeing a lot of zeros and things are just not getting used, maybe it's a time to review some of those snippets, or maybe they're just not in use because people aren't finding them properly. Maybe the metadata is not helpful, or whatever the case. So it kind of gives you some information from a content management perspective as well. You can also filter your results if you want to see things that are created or modified in a specific time frame. Again, that's more for the content manager trying to figure out what might need attention. But also, if you're a end user, you might want to just see which snippets are new that are part of the search that I just did. So you just have some nice options here. You can also see if any snippets are checked out. You can see anything that is checked out by a user, their name will be here, their username will be here. So this snippet is checked out. I'll show you more about that in a couple minutes when we talk about some other things. You also have the option to create your very own favorites list. This is the only thing that's specific to you. So every time you do a search, you're accessing the repository, and it's the same repository that the rest of your team presumably is accessing. Here you can mark a snippet as a favorite simply by selecting it and clicking favorite, and now it has its little star there, and you can undo it in the same fashion. But it allows you to tag snippets that you particularly like, that you use frequently, and have your own list there for that. Okay, another thing I want to show you is when you hover over the word icon, you get all the statistics about that snippet, all the property information pops up here. So maybe you're just curious in this view what version it is or something like that. So you have that information accessible as well. And you can always get that by opening the properties. This is just a quick view of what's the metadata, what is it, the version number, etc. Okay, let's talk about some different ways to insert snippets. So obviously, excuse me. I apologize. Getting over a cold like most people are. So apologize for that. Okay. Sorry. So obviously you can insert a snippet just like you always could. Select it, select insert, double click it, and it'll go where your cursor is. But let's say you want to insert the copy of the body of the snippet, but you don't need it to be a snippet once it's inserted. This is really common with some of our proposal writing teams and with people who are creating very quick standalone documents. You don't need it to be connected to the repository. You don't need it to do any of those things. So in this case, you would choose to insert snippet by inserting the copy. So if I select that, I didn't do the one I wanted, but that's okay. So if I select that, we're going to see it's not a snippet. When I put my cursor in here, no snippet properties show up because it's no longer a snippet. It's just the content that was within that snippet. So you can insert that as a copy. Any variables or conditional tags will be completely intact. It's just removing the snippet tagging in this case. Okay. Another thing you can do is insert snippets as links. So this can be really helpful for a variety of reasons. If you have very large Word documents, and maybe you have a lot of graphics and you have snippets as graphics, and it just can bog Word down when you're navigating. So inserting a snippet as a link to later be embedded can be very efficient. The other reason might be that you are going to send your document around for review, but there are certain things you don't want reviewed again. There's no reason for them to review those sections, so it's easier to have those as linked snippets so that the reviewer doesn't even see the content because it's unnecessary for them, and then you can embed it after the fact. So it's a couple of nice use cases for those. So let's go ahead and do that, and let's check these out. So let's say we want to insert the link. If I have the snippet selected from my list, my cursor is in place, I click Insert Link, you'll see that it inserts it as a link, and it's got the name of the snippet, the entire name of the snippet, and latest version. So if I just select this, just like anytime I'm inserting a snippet, SmartDocs is going to insert the latest version of that snippet. Same thing if I insert it linked in that way. Okay. But what if I want to insert a different version of the snippet? What if I decide I want to insert a previous version of the snippet for whatever reason? So I'm going to go into its properties, and I'm going to go into the version history. So because now I can see a version history of this snippet, then I'm going to decide I actually want to insert, for whatever reason, version 2.0. So what this means is I'm going to select the version I want and do insert. I can insert the copy again, by the way. So I'm going to insert that link. So you'll see it looks a little differently. All right, let's talk about what we have here. This snippet link means when it gets embedded, it will embed the latest version. Maybe by the time I embed it, 3 new versions have happened. Well, it will embed whatever is the most current version of that snippet at that time. This one is locked to version 2.0. So if I decide I'm going to embed these at whatever time, it's going to embed that specific version, regardless of how many versions there are of this snippet since. Now, with my cursor in here, you can see SmartDocs is still going to tell us, hey, by the way, this is not the latest version of the snippet. And it will continue to tell us that, obviously, and it will also tell us that in any other report, even once we embed it. So it will still behave properly as far as telling us the status of that snippet, but we can consciously choose to do that. So another thing you can also do is if you change your mind about that, you can go into the properties again and go into the version history, and you'll see now we have a little update link. So if I say, actually, I don't want it to go to 2.0, I want it to embed 3.0, but I don't want it to embed the latest version. I want the current version as it is, regardless of what happens from now until I end up publishing this document. So I can select a different version and click Update, and it will say, I can choose now, I'm specifically updating to this version, or do I really want the latest version? Because now I've chosen what is currently the latest version, and I'm going to say, no, I want to link to 3.0, and now it will update that, and we'll see as I close this that now it's linked to version 3.0. So hopefully that makes sense. You have total control over over what you want it to do. So you can now embed that if you want to, or you would just simply click that and I can embed it the way that it is. Or I can do it upon publish, or I can do it in bulk, which I'll show you in a bit. I'm going to, just for the sake of what I want to show you later, just put one more linked snippet in here. Actually, I'm going to put in an older version. Oops, that's what I wanted. Let's do this too. Okay, put this one up here. There we go. Okay, we'll come back to those later. All right, we're going to go down to this section. We're going to talk about a couple other things, and then we'll look at the reporting and some improvements there as well. So this is a Smart Finder, which many of you use. Let's quickly execute this, and then we'll do some investigating here. We've changed the interface of this quite a bit as far as making it easier to select and sort which snippets you want to insert. So a Smart Finder, just for those of you who are new, is a direct link to a pre-filtered list of snippets that you've decided you want to offer up the end user to be able to choose from. So in this particular example, we have a section for accessories. I double click on this, and all of this is editable. When you're creating your Smart Finder, you can put instructions, you can name it whatever you want. So all of this is editable text here. And now as the end user, I say, oh, I can choose from these. Okay, great. So a couple of things you can do. Let's say I start selecting things and I select them in reverse order. And that's the order that I want them to be inserted in. So I've selected them in reverse order so I can sort now, just so I can see what I just did and is that the order that I want them. I could also select them all if I want. I can also move them around manually and then select them however I want to do it. So there are tons of ways you can do this just to make sure that you are inserting them the way that you want, however many you want to add. So I'm just going to select those two and click on Insert. So SmartDocs will insert as many as I select in the order that I have of them appearing right there for me, and there they are. Okay, so we have these two accessories snippets. We're going to do quite a few things here that are a little bit more advanced. So try to stick with me if this is brand new to you, and hopefully it'll make a lot of sense eventually. The first thing we're going to do, traditionally you would create a new snippet by selecting already authored text, do a new snippet, and select metadata, etc. Well, what if you haven't written it yet, but you do want it to follow a specific style template? So we want to create a new accessory snippet. So we can see how these look here. They have obviously some styles applied. So we're going to create a new snippet. So I'm going to select new snippet. SmartDocs is smart enough to know that I have not written anything yet, and I've just put my cursor nowhere and selected new snippet. So it knows I want to select or create a snippet from a template. Now, the actual process for setting this up, we are going to cover in the next 36 office hours next month. It requires repository actions, being able to create your, excuse me, styles template, how to save it, all of those things. So how to set this up will be completely covered all the way through in our next 36 office hours. What I'm going to show you is how this actually works so that you can decide, is this something that you want to learn how to do? So the first thing you do is select, as always, you select which repository you're going to store your snippet in. It's just like creating a new snippet normally. Pardon me, I'm sorry about my throat clearing. You're going to select which repository. The next thing you will be given as options are the templates that you have created. So again, setting these up and creating these templates is something we're going to cover in the next session. We want an accessory template, or accessory snippet. So I'm going to select that template. We'll go ahead and give it a name. we'll say we're creating a new battery charger accessory. And I will choose the content type piece of metadata accessory. And that's all I need to do right now. So I'm going to say create. So what's happening is SmartDocs is creating the snippet for us. It's been created and it's been uploaded. It has a name, it has metadata. But obviously it's not ready for anyone to use, so it has not been checked in. So it's checked out to me and won't be available to anyone else until it is checked in. Now I have two choices. Am I just creating a whole bunch of these and I'm going to deal with them later, in which case I could select this, or do I want to insert it and edit it now? So let's go ahead and do that. And so the benefit here, of course, is that you've created something, especially if you create a lot of snippets that are procedural or are following some specific, you can identify here are all the different types of snippets that we're going to create, and it helps you control styles that everyone is using, no direct formatting being applied, and you know exactly that it's going to look exactly the way that you want it. So we can see already that, in fact, if I go over here, I'm going to go into my browse and navigate to that accessory folder in my repository. It's here, and I can already see it. Now I can see it because I created it. If you were accessing my repository, you would not even see that it's there because it's not even checked in. It's not available for use. So right now I'm the only one that can even see it. If I have content approval turned on, I should have prefaced it with saying that. If I have content approval turned on. If you don't have content approval turned on, you would still be checked out and you would not be able to use it. But if I want to now, I can just start typing right into my snippet here. And it's taking on the styles that it needs, so I could new accessory, whatever I want to say. Okay, so let's pretend that's done now. Now I want to save it. So what SmartDocs telling us over here is that it's a pending version. It's not even a 1.0 yet. It's waiting for us to even say that, yep, this is a snippet, go for it. It is currently checked out to me, and I can see a little asterisk here because it was inserted into the document and now I have made changes to it. So that's also indicating that. So if I say, yep, let's go ahead and save this, it's going to be exactly like it would be if we were changing and updating a snippet, and now we can save it. So now we're going to save it as a major version 1.0. It knows that there is no current version other than pending. I can, of course, leave comments if I want to, but I say save. And just like any other snippet was saved. The current version is now in the repository, and it is now available for use. So anyone else who was accessing this would have access to that snippet. If I re-execute my Smart Finder here that we left in, we can see that that is already there. So it's really nice because, you know, from a Smart Finder perspective, when you do add snippets to your repository that happen to meet the search criteria, they just end up in the Smart Finder the next time it's executed. So they're part of that. You don't have to do anything manually to get it to show up in your list of snippets that you're offering people. So that has now been completely updated as well. So that's how easy that is. It's very easy to use. So what, as I said, the setup is very specific, and we want to make sure everyone knows how to do that. So that's going to be handled in great detail in the next training. Okay, so now we're going to do something, this is a little bit more complex, a bit more content management side. So what if you wanted to edit a snippet outside the context of a document? You're just kind of going through and making some updates to some snippets. So you can, as always, you can edit a snippet in the context of a document. I can make a change here. Maybe I'm making a part number change, and I've made that change there, and now it's going to let us know, oh yeah, there are changes made to your snippet. This isn't the latest version, whatever I want to put in here. And now we can see that it's waiting for us to tell it to save or whatever. So you can absolutely still do that. But a lot of people aren't, maybe you're not working on a document and you just want to clean up your snippets. So how do you edit snippets outside the context of a document? Okay, I have selected this snippet out of our list of snippets here. I'm going to go up into my menu, and under this edit snippet, this is to edit the snippet metadata if I needed to do that. So now you don't even have to go through the properties, you can edit it there. But we want to edit the content. Okay, so now take a look at, right now I'm in this specific user guide sample. I'm going to open this up. I'm not sure why it's opening in compatibility mode, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. So right now we can see that we have this snippet here that this is its document, right? This is the snippet. This is the name of the snippet, and this is the version number of the snippet. So that's what we're in right now. So what we can do is maybe we want to change, maybe this is, we want to say, change these numbers, maybe it's 5 feet, and we want to say, I don't know, making things up here. Okay, and we want to change a part number. All right, so we've made some changes. Just like any other Word document, we can now save it. We can save it to the repository. So we have a lot of choices here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just save it in Word. So right now I'm just going to click Save. Okay, it is saving it to the repository. That doesn't mean it has updated it as a new version yet. Okay, so right now it's just saved. So it's saved to the repository, and now SmartDocs wants to know, are we done editing? Okay, checking it in, edit it, or change it to a new version, or do we want to keep editing? So maybe we were just saving, or we're just saving along the way. I'm going to choose that option because I want to show you a couple of things before we check this back in. So I'm going to say close this message and keep editing this snippet. But in reality, I just want to close the snippet for right now. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and close it. Now you'll notice that this snippet, it's still the same, obviously, the one that was in my document, but now it is checked out to me. Okay? So at the moment, no one's going to see any of those changes. They're saved, but they're still just part of that kind of checked out version of that document. All right. Now we're going to open it up again. If I want to, I could say, oh, you know what? I didn't want to make those changes, and I could go in here and discard it. So I could discard those changes. It would check the snippet back in, and it would remain the version that it started out. But let's say we decide, okay, let's go back in, let's edit that a little bit more. If I go back into that document, same document here, my changes are still there. So it has saved the changes. And now I can decide, is there something else I want to change? Maybe I have the part number totally wrong, and I say, okay, actually, this should be this. Whatever. Maybe I don't even make any other changes. That's fine too. So we've opened it up again. We're going to save it again. This time when we're prompted, we're going to save the changes as a new version. So it's saving those changes again for us, right? And now it's asking those same questions. This time we are going to check it in as a new version. Now we're going to be prompted just like we would if we were making a change to that snippet in a working document that we were making changes to things in, right? So now we can say, okay, added warning and changed part number or whatever we want to say. Save. So now it is saving that back to the repository. Now it will be a version 2.0 as the window told us. We can close this window. So we're closing up this specific document and window, and now we can see that with our cursor in this snippet in our document that we were working with before, we're already being told, hey, there's a new version of this available. And if I wanted to, I could just click update or whatever I want to do, compare, do whatever I need. Okay, so none of that functionality is different. It's just a little more obvious, and I can very easily change it right now. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. The previous versions of SmartDocs had that capability, but you had to take additional steps, and it was a little bit unclear about where you were in the process. So it's just functioning as any other Word document. You can save it. It will prompt you, tell you what it's doing. It will save any changes that you've made, even if you're not ready to check it back in and make it a new version. So hopefully for a lot of you who are in charge of doing all of the editing and managing content, that will make things really nice and easy for you. Okay. Sorry, that was a complex one, so hopefully you're sticking with me on that. Let's go into some other snippet information. So much like with the variables that I showed you, the manage variables window, now we have the snippet version here. Okay, so let's take a look at all of this. We have all sorts of stuff going on in here, and what's really nice about this is that we're getting a lot of statistics, and we have a ton of options, and we can do a whole lot of management from this view here. So we have a whole bunch of statistics at the bottom. Total number of snippets. We can see there are 2 linked snippets, and they have little icons there. 8 are up to date with the latest version. We have several that are out that are not in the latest version. As always, you can go into these bulk actions. If we wanted to embed all of our linked snippets, we could do that here. We can update all the snippets that are out of date if we want to. We can certainly do that. This is not new. The update all is new functionality. The embed is. And it will embed, of course, whichever version we've told it to embed. If we decide not to embed, by the way, once you publish will automatically embed all linked snippets. So it is a setting. You could uncheck that if for whatever reason you didn't want to do that. If you're publishing a version that didn't have that snippet copy embedded, you can certainly do that. But by default, all snippets that are linked will be embedded upon publish operation. We also have this option here. We want SmartDocs to show us, are there any snippets in the document that we're working on that have changes that have not been saved to the repository? So let's go ahead and run that. So SmartDocs is scanning all of our snippets. It has found 2 that have changes made in this document that have not yet been saved to the repository. By the way, it's not scanning linked snippets, obviously, because they don't fall into this category. So we can automatically say, okay, go ahead and save them and update them if we want to. Or we can just close this and see which ones they are. So we can see there are 2 here, as it indicated. As always, it's synchronized. We have the latest version inserted into our document, but these now we see that they have changes made to them that we have to make a decision about. Are they just specific to this document? Are we updating them to the repository as new versions? And now that statistic has been added to the bottom here. Just like with the variables, you can run a report that would look exactly like this coming into an Excel spreadsheet. So again, if maybe you wanted to say someone wanted a list of all the snippets in a document and the status, maybe you need someone else to address them for whatever reason. If any of these snippets were checked out, you would see that here. If we had not checked that snippet that we updated back in, it would show here as checked out. So you can see they have tons of information here. The SmartDocs ID is nice and accessible now. For those of you who have worked with Smart Builders and use SmartDocs ID sometimes for snippet inserting, this is one way to grab it, but that SmartDocs ID is very accessible in a variety of places now. You don't have to go into SharePoint to grab it like you had to in a lot of cases before. So lots of bulk actions. Obviously, you can select one snippet. You get whatever information you want and it would be relevant to that. And you have all sorts of options here. The bulk actions remain the same in the reporting. So kind of a nice interface, a lot of information for you to decide how you want to handle. Really quickly, usage tracking. We have simplified usage tracking a little bit. It's a little more organized in the reporting, for example. So if usage tracking, if you want to, you can, like everything, we've kind of consolidated your choices in a lot of these drop-downs. So if you want to run a report from the snippets that are currently in this document or any of the repositories, you can get a full report. So I'm just going to run this document version really quickly for you to see. And you'll see that it's a little bit cleaner than it was before with some indicators. So here are all the snippets that are currently in this document, which repositories they're coming out of. These just coincidentally are all the same one. Again, SmartDocs ID, how many times each of these individual snippets is being tracked in a document, what the latest version of the snippet is. Here's the current document with any that are out of date, meaning they don't have the current version in the document. You'll see highlighted like this. And then across the top are all the other documents that have one or more of these specific snippets in it and are being tracked. So this is a nice way to get a feel for what's going on if you're auditing your repositories and you want to see a whole repository of information or of your snippets to see what information is being updated, what's not being updated, which documents are being tracked. Maybe you decide, you know, we don't need to track that document anymore. You can go turn it off. So usage tracking can be turned on or off at any time in a document's history, life cycle, as always. So it's just this reporting is a little bit cleaner and a little easier to work with. Additionally, now if usage tracking is turned on in a template and you create a new document from it, usage tracking will be on by default. It still needs to be refreshed in the new document once the document has a name and you've saved it. But previously, in past SmartDocs, you would be prompted with a file name change warning when you're creating from a template, because it would recognize it says, wait, this is the same, is this the same document or is not the same document, sort of, and it would want you to reconcile that. Now we've built it in so that if you do want usage tracking turned on in a template so that any document that's created off of it is automatically being tracked, you can do that, and the only reconciling you're doing is just refreshing usage tracking, you know, as you're working with it, just like normal. So it's more efficient and it's nice. Before I move on to the next phase here, one more quick thing. I kind of threw this out really quickly with publishing. When you publish now, just as a side note, you can save snippets with track changes or comments in them. It's not best practice, obviously, because they'll be there when they get inserted into documents, and by definition, a snippet should be final and ready to use. But we had some people that were asking for this capability as part of a content approval process. But I would really encourage you to have a good process and clear understanding for the team around that if you are going to save snippets that way. During the publish operation, any track changes will be accepted, right? So if whatever you've done will be accepted, and then comments removed. You can turn that off, but that's the default behavior. There are also advanced setting options that include the ability to remove those, so you can override them, but you can also, it will also default to embed any link snippets like I told you before. So that will work for you all the time. Okay, we're going to take a look at document snapshots. I'm actually going to opt for a different, let me close this one here. Sure, we'll save it. I'm going to open a similar but different document. Okay, document snapshots. Quick definition for those of you who are unfamiliar. Document snapshots allow you to save end states of your document by defining here are the variables and here are the conditional tags in combination that equal this document output. So if you remember, we have in our sample document here that we've been working with, we have these sleep assist products, and we have the automatic 1000, manual 1 and 2000s, right? So we have different user guides for each of those. So if we want to restore a snapshot, if I select one of these to restore, it's updating variable values as well as which conditional tags are set to show. So I can very easily toggle between them, and I can also very easily change, publish multiple versions, okay? So I'm going to go back to this because I want to start with this kind of blank space here. Okay, so now we're showing everything. All conditional tags are showing, and variables that are specific to a model do not have values. So the setup for this, pardon me, is not wildly different. I'll open up the designer here. We'll just select one of these, the AU. And we've changed this interface a little bit. It's a little cleaner. You still have the same types of options. You can have paper size change upon publish. You can run one of your own macros just by putting the name of it here. You're still setting up, you're still telling SmartDocs which variables need specific values and which conditional tags should be set to show. This is a super simple example. I only even have one in here. So you can have any number, whatever is relevant to each of your end states of your document. What we've added is the ability to delete and retain content during publishing. So where this comes really into play, those of you who have been asking for the ability to conditionalize columns in tables, which Word does not allow because it doesn't recognize columns in that way, where you can conditionalize a row and it can be easily removed. Conditionalizing a column is not possible the way that Word creates columns. So one of the things that we did one of the advantages of being able to delete and retain content is that now you can effectively remove a column as if it's been conditionalized. There are other uses for this, of course, and I'll talk about all those things. But but basically, if you want to delete a column, this is how you would do it. You would set this up. So what we've done here is by using bookmarks, we're going to identify content that we may want deleted or may want retained. So I'm going to close this. We'll come back to it. Let me just show you how it's set up in the document. I'm closing these windows here. Pardon the scrolling. Okay. So we have this table, this product information table here. So we have two columns. Clearly, one is for the manual, one is for the automatic product models. They have bookmark indicators here. I'll show you what those are called. So I'm just going into my Word insert bookmark just so you can see the names of these bookmarks. So I have bookmarked from the entire column with its appropriate bookmark that we'll eventually use. So the important thing here is that you're giving it a naming convention that will make sense and allow you to sort them and also allow you to use the asterisk wildcard so that you can eliminate or include things very easily. So in this particular case, for those of you who are familiar with bookmarks, you create bookmarks here. I've already created these and I gave them the prefix snapshot so that any of them that I create that are related to these snapshot outputs will be correct, will be easy to find and easy to identify. So I've created those, I applied them to these specific columns. So you can see here, this one is bookmarked and this one's bookmarked. So what this allows us to do in our snapshot setup is I can tell SmartDocs when you publish, you're going to delete all content that has the bookmark snapshot underscore and then this wildcard, which means it will delete all things that follow after that prefix. So maybe I have 50 different bookmarks that have snapshot underscore and some other thing. Maybe there are tons of different models that we've created, whatever. So it will delete all of them except whatever I put down here. So it can say delete everything, but keep this one. So in this case, it's a simple example. There are only two, and I could have just set it up to say in the AU, delete the MA one, but it's kind of, that's fine too. But this one is easier to edit later on because later on, if I do add all those 50 others, I don't have to make any changes here. It'll always retain the one that I actually want for this specific snapshot. So this is a better way to set it up, even though in this example, I only have two. So in this case, what will happen is when I publish the document, you can't refresh it on screen. It won't show when I just restore the snapshot. It will do it when I publish the document. It will retain that one column and remove the other. So I'm going to cancel this out because it's already saved. And I'm going to publish that specific snapshot. So we'll save it. And we're going to publish document snapshots. I'm just going to publish it in PDF. It's fine. So I'll say publish. Now it will ask me which ones I want to publish. I'm just going to publish that one. So now it is removing all the content, or all the tagging, highlighting whatever needs to be removed. It's showing the proper conditional tag. It's putting in the proper variable values for this specific output that I created. And now we'll go ahead and open this up. Oh, sorry, open on my other screen. And here it is. So here's our document now. Variable values were obviously populated properly, and if I take it all the way to the bottom, pardon me, you can see only that one column remains, as opposed to both. Okay, so that's how that delete content works. So now this is just really specific to removing a column, obviously, but it's really, really helpful. Like, let's say there are just some times when you don't want to use conditional text. So if you wanted to bookmark an entire section, rather than conditionalizing the whole thing, now you can bookmark it for deletion within a specific snapshot rather than conditionalizing it. So again, you won't see it, it won't behave, or it won't change in a show hide like conditional text does, but when you publish that snapshot, it will go, it will display the way that it's supposed to. You can also use this there's also a delete content action available in Smart Builders now too, so you can use it that way as well. So use conditional text when it's more granular, when it's within snippets, and things like that. When you have very large sections or columns, delete content might be a better approach. So hopefully that helps you see some possibilities there. Okay, we don't have a lot of time left, and I'm going to do some Smart Builder, show you some Smart Builder things. So again, those of you who are very new to Smart Builders, I'm really not training on the how-to today. To be perfectly honest, I just learned how to use some of these features within the last 48 hours, so we're kind of in this together at the moment. But I do want to show you some of these capabilities. Some of the navigation that has changed, but we will be having 2 or 3 36 office hours dedicated sessions to Smart Builders coming up as well. So those will be coming within the next couple of months. Current users of Smart Builders, you'll likely have a few questions when you're starting to use some of these new capabilities, so please just send them to customer@36software.com, and we'll absolutely help you and assist, because I know we haven't had time yet to do the training. So if there's a specific thing you're trying to use and can't figure something out, absolutely let us know and we'll be happy to help you. Okay, I'm going to close this. We don't need this anymore. All right, let's go ahead and bear with me. I just want to make sure I'm showing you the right things here. So I'm going to quickly just do here's what a Smart Builder is demo for you, just very, very quickly. In fact, let me close this other one, get that out of the way. Okay, Smart Builder. Those of you who've set Smart Builders up, this will already look exciting to you because it's a totally different interface for how a Smart Builder runs. A Smart Builder allows you to, it will allow you to create within a template your own question and answer interface for the end user to be able to answer questions, populate variables in your document, pull in snippets, show in high conditional text, do all sorts of stuff, delete content like I just showed you, without the end user even needing to know how to do any of those things. So it's just creating a really nice, easy way for your end users to provide information and get a document built out of that. In some cases, some of our customers have built really sophisticated Smart Builders. They're amazing. They do all sorts of things, and their end users have almost a fully completed document at the end of that. Some of them, you may end up with your document is 50% of the way through once you go through a Smart Builder. And then there's customization that's required. You also can have multiple Smart Builders in any one template. So you're using Word templates. I opened a new document from a Word template, so a new docx off of a docx, and this is the result I got. This particular Smart Builder is set to run automatically as soon as I create a new document. You can see it's a document 7. It's not been saved or named yet. So right now, as the end user, I'm just presented with some some information to fill out. So let's go ahead and just populate this with some stuff really quickly just so you can see what happens here. And again, some of you have tons of experience with this, some of you have zero, which is totally fine. And again, we're going to do soup to nuts type of training with SmartFinders very soon. I'm sorry, Smart Builders. Continue. Oh, another cool thing too, for those of you who are experienced with Smart Builders, let's say I can't tell as a user right now which fields are required or not. You now have navigation, which you didn't have before. So now I could go back if I want to change an answer. I can always change it in here once everything's populated. But now I can actually navigate around. I can do continue to the next page. But if I were to do continue to the next page and there were some required fields I didn't fill out, now it will tell me that, which is kind of nice too. So you have, and by the way, that ability is also in the in preview mode, which I'll show you in a few minutes. Okay, so same thing, drop down. This is obviously a very simple example. I'm just populating it with some dummy content here. And all right, continue on. I will choose some hardware. Eventually this is going to show in high conditional text, so I'll choose a few of those. Some references, this will populate. Again, just like with SmartFinders, you can choose and sort and move things around, select all of them, clear your choices, view a snippet first, you know, whatever you need to do. So you have tons of little options now down here. Here are a few others, so we'll just go ahead and execute. So SmartDocs now is taking all of my responses, associating all the necessary actions to them. As the end user, I don't really know or care what anything is. I don't know what snippets are or conditional tags necessarily, and it doesn't matter to me. I don't have to. But what's nice right now, and this Smart Builder being open over here on the task pane instead of on top of your document is kind of cool. It also is going to now give you statistics, what just happened. So you can hover over any of these and see what was inserted, what was updated, etc. If you need a log file to check out or whatever you want to do, you can do that. So now that's done. So we've run through this and it's populated. Now, of course, I just did everything manually. I was populating that. So I'm going to show you some of these new cool automation things. Okay. I'm going to close that document. So everyone gets kind of a feel for what Smart Builders are doing, some of the end user enhancements there you got to see. I'm going to open up an actual template now. Actually, you know what? I'm going to open a different one. Okay. Let's take a look at, yeah, we'll do that. Apologize that I have so many things going on here. Okay, so now I've opened an actual template. This particular template has multiple Smart Builders in it. So you can, as I said, you can have any number of Smart Builders built within a template that can be executed when needed. So let's go into the Manage window. This is Designers. For some of you, if this may be completely new and look totally crazy to you, I get it. There are some, there is training in SmartDocs University for previous versions of SmartDocs that will show you a lot of, how to build these Smart Builders and things in that environment. So if you want just kind of a preview of that, absolutely a lot of that stuff still holds true, but it doesn't look the same, obviously. But from a concept perspective, it would maybe help you get familiar. But we're going to go into edit mode here, and those of you who are experienced Smart Builder people, you're going to really appreciate some of these things here. So this is the new interface. What's really cool about this is that now, as you're doing things and building things, you are seeing a live preview. So this is really nice. You have this side-by-side as I navigate to different, this is on the page level. So this is the whole page. These are all the pieces that make up this particular page. So same thing, if I went to this one, it would change to that specific page. So this is the page level view. You can also preview anything that you want to preview. So in other words, if I go into this particular page and I go into my drop down and choose preview mode of just that page, I can do that just to test out the functionality, or I can go into preview of the Smart Builder. If I go into preview of the Smart Builder, all the rules apply. So if I actually do have these as required fields and I press continue, it is going to, oh, those are required. I have validation on. Okay. These must not be set up as required fields. If I had them as required fields, it would not allow me to do that. I think I opened the wrong Smart Builder, sorry. But anyway, it would tell me which things were I couldn't advance through. If I turn the validation off, I can just continue to advance no matter what I want to do. Oh, I know. I'm sorry. I opened the one with the multiple Smart Builders, and this is just, I have it set up differently. But anyway, it's the same as when I, as the end user, tried to navigate forward, and it wouldn't let me. It showed everything in red that was not completed that needed to be. If I have validation on in preview mode, it would behave the same way. But I can turn it off and just continue going through. I can also, for those of you who like this sort of thing, you have access now to the diagnostics report, so you can see everything that you've built so far. So those of you who like looking at code and like doing things like this, want to see your logical expressions that you've used, see how you've got things set up, this is kind of nice. I am not a coder, I'm not a software developer, but this makes sense to me, quite honestly, because now I'm familiar enough with this interface, and it allows you to kind of see in list form what's going on. If you were to go through and make a change in real time, if you're making selections, this was a bad example, unfortunately, that I chose because this particular Smart Builder doesn't have any selections. But, oh, that's not true, actually. We can look at the client information one. Let's go ahead and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. I'll go into here. So here is a selection. So let's just look at the diagnostics. I know for a lot of you this is not relevant, but some of you this really, really is. So I just wanted to make sure that I'm showing it to you. We have this company information, and company industry is going to be waiting for a value. And it will behave in different actions are going to be associated with that. So if I actually go in here and select something like government, for example, and I reopen this, it will actually show me now that one has been chosen. So you can test things out and just see how things are working. So again, I apologize to some of you who are not inclined to look at this type of thing, but those of you who are probably appreciated that a lot. Okay, so that's how that is. So you just have a lot of stuff available to you now. It's very easy to move things around, just like always. You could always reorganize your Smart Builder components. Again, if I wanted to have this rep name go appear somewhere else, I can just change it, and it does it in real time. It just did it right in front of our eyes. So it's a really nice way to see what you're doing and how it's working, okay? So that's that. Another thing that you can do, so for those of you who are familiar, this is the actions. So this is the user interface. This is what the end user sees. You set up different controls and dictate all that information however you want. It's totally customizable. The actions are the important part where it's, here is what you want SmartDocs to do with the responses that it receives or the choices that are selected. Okay, so now we've got this delete content that I mentioned to you before. I do just want to show you in the insert snippets action, those of you who are familiar, a couple of things here. Now you can target, I'm sorry, in your target content you can include bookmarks, obviously. You can also include headings. So if I were to choose heading, for example, what you're telling SmartDocs is that you want to insert a snippet immediately following, I guess is the best way to say it, a specific heading. So now this is my document set of headings, so I could choose one of these headings and say this is this, based on these other actions that I set up, the snippet when necessary needs to be inserted after this heading, and then I can also choose to insert it immediately, appending it to the heading so it would be right after, or if there's also content there to go after all of that, so meaning it's going to go before the heading that follows this one is really what that means. So you have a lot of power around building those sections and kind of having that work with your the way that you have the construct of your document, your heading set up. And that was something that a lot of people had requested. Another thing that you can do is you can insert an embedded snippet like normal, but you can also insert a linked snippet or the snippet copy. So these are new choices that you have as far as insertion settings. So that's pretty helpful and handy. Okay. All right. I'm going to close this and again switch to something similar but different. Now this one's pretty cool. So we've added, a lot of you have probably built macros to do a couple of these things I'm about to show you. Now you don't need those macros. Now you'll be able to import values from an Excel spreadsheet, and you'll also be able to populate values based on a drop-down selection. So let's look at both of those things. First, we're going to look at being able to populate from a drop-down. So let's go ahead and take a look at this behind the scenes first, I think is the best way. Okay, what we've created, I'm going to open up an Excel spreadsheet. This spreadsheet is a list of, we've created a spreadsheet called sales representatives. So this list of sales representatives, let's say you have, your use cases, you have a lot of data and you want to make it very easily available within the Smart Builder interface for the end user to choose a name and have it populate a bunch of control values, okay, a bunch of values. So currently a lot of you, like I said, have written code and have your own macros to do this, but now you can replace those with this functionality. It requires zero code. So we have this set up so that all sales representatives' names and contact info are here, okay? Now, I'm going to close this. This is where it's coming from. This is our source. Oh. Get out of my way. Okay, so I'm going to open up a new document from our template. So this is a different template that has this capability pulled in. So what we get here, it looks the same almost, right? Except we have this drop down that we've put here. And when I select this drop down, here's a list of those names coming right out of that spreadsheet. So when I choose one of these, it populates everything else that is part of that row that has a place to go. Wherever we've mapped that information to go into this Smart Builder values, it's going to pull it in. So that's really powerful, very cool. And I'm using my arrow keys on my keyboard. If I say, oops, I selected the wrong one and I don't feel like going back to select again, I can use my up and down arrow keys and it's going to go through and in real time update all the information. So this is pretty cool and it's very, very helpful to be able to provide that for your users. So let me just give you a really quickly show you what that looks like behind the scenes. I'm just going to close that. I'm going to open the template that's built into and go into this, manage this Smart Builder. It's just this little Smart Builder here. So we can see if I expand the sales rep information group box, here's what that is right here. That's how it's set up, or that's where it lives. So if I go into edit mode here, you can see it's pulling a specific document from a predefined spreadsheet. So you have different options here, how you set it up, if there's a header row, all sorts of stuff. I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of it, but that is a capability built right in. You don't need any macros anymore. You don't need any coding to make that happen. It's just will work here in this way. Okay, displayed format, all that stuff. Okay, so that's one thing. The last specific thing I'm going to show you today, I'm going to close this again, sorry. We're going to do a similar thing, but I'm going to show you another Excel spreadsheet here. Now this one, imagine this use case. You've seen this little Smart Builder many times already today, right? We're collecting proposal information, sales rep information, company information, blah, blah, blah. Let's imagine the person who needs to provide you with this information initially doesn't have SmartDocs, maybe isn't even in your company, maybe is a contractor, maybe is an admin, who knows what. And you need to collect some information from them that will eventually populate values in your Smart Builder. So they're not necessarily just variables either, by the way. This can be any value that the Smart Builder is asking for. You can map to this information. Okay, so in this case, we have basically pulled out a little mini version of our Smart Builder so that whoever is using this can just enter some values in here. Okay, so I'm going to close that. And just like I did a moment ago, I'm opening a new document from a template. And now here's our interface with this. So in this case, I'm the end user, right? I sent that spreadsheet to someone. They filled out the information for me. Great. Now I want to import that data into my Smart Builder so that it goes into my document or is used however it needs to be used. So now I can browse to it. There's my little Excel spreadsheet. I say, yep, that's the one I want. Open. Okay. I click on import, and it's going to populate all the values that it can pull from there that are going into my Smart Builder values. So I say, okay, so it's all there. Pulled it all in for me, and now I'm done. So obviously, again, those of you who have written, maybe you've written code for this, or this is a capability that you've been really, really wanting to have, now you've got it. It's incredibly simple to use and to work with. Let me go ahead and show you a quick behind the scenes of that. I'm sorry we're going over time, but hopefully this is interesting to you guys. Let's open that template really quickly. Go into the Manage Smart Builder. Same little Smart Builder name, even though these are all from different templates. They're just set up to demonstrate for you, obviously. Here's all the interface. So again, you can change it however you want. This import data has its own group box, as you can see. So if I go into edit mode for that, I can see how it's set up. This is pulling from a spreadsheet. It's going to import values, etc. So this is how it would get set up in control, as a file picker control is what these are. So those of you, again, who are familiar, that will make sense. For those of you who are not familiar, don't worry so much about the designer side. Worry about, oh yeah, that's really cool. I want to be able to do that. And then we'll make sure you know how to do that. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for using SmartDocs. And I really hope you enjoy all these new things that you got to see today.